If your lot is too small, you may lose money building an eightplex, or will you? And the reality is the lot size really does not matter. All that really matters is the zoning and the density that is allowed within that zoning parameter. Now, sometimes the zoning doesn't even matter. Let's talk about all this today. Let's talk about zoning, let's talk about density, let's talk about the lot size, and let's put all this puzzle together to help you bridge between some mental limitations that a lot of people have when it comes to dirt and development. And I'm going to give you an example before we get into the actual development understanding. We'll go into an area that's semi-rural. As you get further out of town and more into rural areas, you need more land to build less units, because the governing body of those municipalities don't want density to restrict that area. This is their brains thinking, right? There's plenty of land. Why are we going to dump 150 people in one half-acre lot? Like, why would you do that when you have farmland all around you? So the reality is that the municipalities can sit back and say, nope, high density here for a 1 acre lot is only 12 units per acre. Okay? Now, this is all theoretical. Now, you go inner city, my business partner and I in Seattle, we have a lot tied up in downtown Seattle. And that lot is less than a half an acre. It's 0.47 of an acre. So it's not even a half-acre lot, and we're building 50 units on less than a half-acre lot. Now, it's in downtown Seattle. So there's public transportation, there's parking garages around us, and there's street side parking around us. And the city told us that we can eliminate 100% of our parking. We have 0 parking spaces for our facility. We're going to do a parking agreement for a reduced rate in the parking garage that abuts our property, so we have no parking, allowing us to go vertical. Now, this build will end up being a 6-story build, but this 6-story build will bring us the availability of 50 multifamily units, and they'll be luxury units, and we will build 5 feet from all side lot lines, and we will consume the vast majority of the rest of the land and dirt around us. The free space will be trees, plants, and sidewalk. Everything else will be completely devoured. But there is no more room to build in downtown Seattle. So strategically repositioning or taking advantage of small infill lots, they allow that type of density because the need for housing in those inner city areas are vastly needed. So the size of the lot doesn't matter, but what matters more is the actual zoning itself. Now, there's what's called downzoning, and so if you go into an area where there's a lot of commercial, retail, office, or industrial, but there's a need for housing, and let's say that single-family homes abut these industrial areas, and there is not a buffer zone between the industrial or the retail and that residential marking where homes sit, the city will allow you to take a commercial property that's zoned for commercial or for manufacturing or for industrial use, and they'll allow you to downgrade to a residential use. Now, and even if they don't allow you to do so, every single commercial zoning has a residential component tied into it because it's a lower zoning. And when you think about zoning, you have to think about the noise ordinance. When you go in, and I'm standing across from a commercially zoned construction company that does commercial warehousing and construction equipment, and right to where we are is all retail commercial development where multifamily could possibly go in. Also, residential wouldn't want to go in here because of how loud it is. So when you have the loud use of manufacturing, machinery, tractors going, they want a buffer between that. So it goes from manufacturing and industrial. The next zoning decreases down to commercial and retail. The next zoning decreases down to office, because in office, you don't have as much in and out, right? Then you go from office down to multi-use residential. Then from multi-use residential, you go to single-family use residential, which just allows one single-family home. So every time you cascade down in zoning, the city, more times than not, will allow and recommend the approval because it allows for a lower density use that people are okay with, and you don't get an outreach from the neighbors screaming, yelling, and complaining that you're taking an industrial use property, vice versa, and dumping it into a residential neighborhood. That's upzoning. Now, upzoning is possible too, but there's limitations to upzoning. So a lot of times when you do get approved for upzoning, it's with a limitation with what's called a special use parameter, meaning that they might approve you for single family build that goes to multi-unit build, but they're going to put restrictions, and that restriction may be the quantity of units that they put on that specific piece of land. So they'll go, okay, we'll go from low density, single family homes, to maybe a medium density where maybe you get 10, 12 units per acre, to then a high density use where maybe you can get 25 units per acre. And then you go to a really high use like we do in Seattle, which is actually a commercial zoning. It's a live-work facility where the bottom floor is going to be retail, and then the other 5 floors above it are all going to be residential use. But we're going to do live-work so we could actually live and rent as apartments instead of commercial if we need and have to, so that way we don't have vacant units. Now, when you do that, then you go to high density, and we're able to get 100 units in a 1 acre parcel, 50 units on just shy of a half acre parcel. So the zoning matters. And what you want to do to understand what they're going to allow, instead of going in trying to buy a lot first and then find on the back end that you're going to fight with the city, that fight will be a forever losing battle, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and months and years of trial and error with a city and municipal body. Just go in and talk to them in advance. Talk to the economic development team, talk to the progressive planners. And what I do is I take a lot just like this and I go, I have a great idea of what I want to do on a lot just like this. And I say, look, I want to do some retail pad sites in front. I want to put a Freddy's Burger up there. I want to put like a little Soli mattress, Posturepedic mattress place in there. And then I want to go throw an AT&T or a Verizon store in a little tiny building up front. But I want to sell those pad sites off. Or maybe I want to throw a McDonald's up there with a drive-through window on it, a Freddy's Burgers, or a Dairy Queen or something like that. And so I'll just keep that for later. It's just free land. We'll worry about the pad sites tomorrow. Today, I want multifamily on the backside of this lot right here. But the question is, I haven't talked to the city yet. So is the city going to allow me to go in and get 2 or 3 pad sites up there? And if I do multifamily on this back sector, what are my limitations to that multifamily? And do they even want it? Will they even support me? So I'll just make a quick phone call and say, hey, I have this great lot. We just tied it up. Here's what our goal is that we're proposing. But before we actually move forward with this, I want to know what you recommend for the progressive growth of the city and what you guys would love to see on this land. Can you share with me what your insight is of finished and final use of this land looks like in the perspective of the city, the county, or whatever municipality you have? And then sometimes they'll say, you know, we really don't know. We would like to see, you know, maybe some soft office going over here. We weren't thinking that we were going to get heavy industrial. You know, retail up front might be nice. Maybe we would allow for some multifamily in the back. You know, what are you proposing? Then I tell them my story and tell them, you know, but more so than anything, I want this to be successful, not just for me. I want this to be successful for the county. I want this to be successful for the city. And so I want to work in alignment with you. I want to work together and find the best and highest use for this land right here. And now you can go in and they're on the offense instead of the defense. And now we go in and we take this acre of land right here and we find out what the density and highest best use is for this land. That's going to depict what you are willing to pay for this lot. Because if all of a sudden you think you can get 100 units on this lot, 50 units on this lot, but the reality is the city is only going to support 20, does the project still pencil? And is this lot even worth buying at the price you have it tied up for? And so the use of the lot and what I can maximize on it is going to depict the closing, and it's also going to depict what I pay for the lot as the end buyer. And the real variable is going to come in the purchase once I negotiate, not with the seller, but the city or the municipality themselves. And so understand that I will not commit to this lot until I know what my minimum density is and what I'm going to be able to utilize this lot for, so I can underwrite the overall value of the finished asset value of what I'm going to have here, provided I pay X dollars for this land. Because like I tell people, sometimes you can get land for free. And if you can't afford the construction costs, the debt service, and to stabilize that asset, it may not even be worth buying a lot that's free. That's right. It may not be worth buying a lot that's free. And you're sitting back going, well, Jerome, why won't you buy a lot if the lot's free? Because why do I want this lot to pay property taxes on if I can't do what I need to with it to ever make this lot profitable? Why would I take this lot as a liability? Because all vacant land is to a bank and to you is a liability until it starts to produce cash. Now, if you're buying farmland, you're buying a lot of acreage, the taxes and tax deferment or tax rebates are good because it's agricultural. You have a cow on it, or you're you're growing alfalfa and you let somebody, a farmer, grow alfalfa on your lot for free, because as long as they maintain it, cut it, and bale it, because you get your agricultural credits and now you have no property taxes, then that's okay. But there is land, ladies and gentlemen, that even if you get it for free, could be worth absolutely nothing in the development world if I can't get the rents and the density I need to make the project stabilize and cash flow. I have to still be able to build that asset, because the land cost truly is a small amount of the overall perspective of any development. So make sure that you're in alignment and you have the city and your municipal body on the offense, not the defense, fighting with you, to go in and execute together as a team. And always tie your lot up with two contingencies. First one is a contingency based on a minimum density that supports the underwriting to make this land cash flow with a finished asset. If you can't get at least that, the land's not worth anything to you, don't buy it. The second contingency is contingent on all municipal approvals, because if you think you can get that density but you don't have it, and then there's a wrench thrown in there, or maybe the governing body changes and you buy it during an election year like we're going through right now, and maybe the governing body in here today supports you, but maybe the governing body tomorrow doesn't. So what's your limitations based on the current zoning, and can you make this cash flow? Those contingencies are super important when you're buying land and you're building houses, multifamily, or any commercial asset. For more content just like this, to learn how to buy land, build commercial assets and residential assets, click and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give me some love and pound that thumbs up button if you love the content. And until next time, continue and go out and compound your success.